Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. We are diving right in, continuing this series from service to self, and we have Miss Tasha Jones on here with us today. Hey, one of my best girls, okay? We are going to dive in and talk to Tasha about her transition from the military. So, for starters, Tasha, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining and coming on to share your story, giving women veteran a voice, and just like I said, sharing your story, your transition, and giving some insight and maybe just support and motivation and encouragement to the women veteran or women or men, whoever is watching, just to them, giving them that support. So I thank you for joining me.
No, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and for being able to talk on this subject. There's a lot of women, veterans in different capacities and situations out there. So it's a good conversation to have, I think.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll dive right in, okay, to question number one. So, Tasha, the very first thing I would like to ask you is, first of all, tell us what branch of service you were in, what inspired you to join that military, and what do you remember the most about your time in service?
So I was in, of course, the best branch, the Navy.
Hoorah! What? Navy is the best.
Some of the, those army dudes, they like, oh, never again volunteer yourself. I'm like, get out of here, whatever, whatever. But anywho's, I was in the Navy and I was in for one tour, so 4 years, and then I did reserves afterwards. And as some veterans probably know, you get married. My husband was also military, and we had to make that decision. So I was only able to actively serve for for one tour.
Okay, got you. And so, what do you remember most about your time in service?
I just I was excited for what I was doing. I mean, I was in intelligence, and honestly, I learned that I was good at processing like large volumes of information. And I was very good at deriving like and forecasting based off of data. And that's something that like that specific thing I didn't really know until went through training and started actually enacting some of the skill sets that was provided for me. I really enjoyed the camaraderie.
Mm,
Of course, you just like anywhere else, there's groups. That's just human nature for people to group up and do whatever they do. But the people that I work with, I think the ones that were good and effective, we probably had similar profiles with how we thought and did things. So the people that I hung out with, I really developed some fun relationships that helped teach me more about myself and how to engage with people. I think the most exciting piece of it for me was the travel.
mm.
I really enjoy the travel. Having been born and raised in Florida.
Country girl.
And coming up in Central Florida and didn't really travel a ton. We didn't even do back then anyway, we didn't do cruises and things like that. We would go visit, our trips were mostly going to visit family. So we
Okay.
may go to Georgia, or we might go, we had like one cousin in Texas, and I remember us going there one time. We had a church convention in New York, and we did a bus trip
Yeah, yeah.
up to New York. But like we didn't travel. So
Yeah.
the travel was exciting. My first and only, because I only was in for one tour, duty station was in the UK. And yeah, because you're overseas, as you already know,
Yeah.
Sparkle as being well read, well traveled. Once you're over in Europe, it's a lot easier to go to other places. It's a lot easier to travel. So I really enjoyed that piece. I think those were probably the primary things that I really enjoyed.
Got you, got you, got you. Intelligence. And that is a very, very how do I want to put it? Like that is a field of work that is very niched, very, you got to have a certain mind. I tell you this all the time. You got to have a certain mind. You got to have a certain way of thinking and just being to be in intelligence. So I'm just shouting out my girl Tasha, y'all, because she's super smart, one, and she is about her business and how she process and how she think. All of that is legitly like the intelligence world. They won and lost when they lost her. Like for real. Like it's that is exactly how she thinks. And so honestly, it's amazing to be in that community and to experience kind of how intelligence analysts and people in that realm think and operate and process and all that. So yeah, I can appreciate that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, Sparkle, there's one other thing. Um, because I think it's important to say this, especially in the current climate that we're dealing with. It definitely changed my perspective of how government politics and the world works.
Mm,
When you grow up in the United States, I think a lot of people don't understand how insular and isolated we are in this
yeah,
country.
yeah,
It's a huge country, right? So you don't think about it as small-minded or siloed thinking or anything like that because it's such a big country. But compared to other countries and the civilizations that go back hundreds of thousands of years prior to the existence of this one,
mm,
and the fact that in the US, you can travel coast to coast and only know English and be fine.
yeah,
Um, that's not typical in other countries. And you can go coast to coast and only have lived in the US and have similar experience coast to coast. Nuanced differences for regional changes and dialects and things like that, where you may have across the South, there's all types of Southern dialects.
yeah,
People in New Orleans sound different from people in Louisiana, sound different from people in Georgia, and different from Florida. You know what I'm
right,
saying? So they
right,
all have their own little, and your North Carolakis and, your Geechees and all the things. Like everybody has a little tweak and twang, and they may use little different words, but you can get by more than get by. Coast to coast, top to bottom in the United States.
yeah,
That's not typical in most of the other countries. Like even within like Africa is huge. I forgot how many times you can put the United States inside of Africa and the number
mm,
of countries across Africa, the number of languages just in a single country in Africa. It's such a broad spectrum of culture, language, experiences, mannerisms, what's considered
yeah,
respectful versus not. And so being in the intelligence community definitely broadened my aperture, my understanding, and the way that I think, so that when people say certain things, we tend to be shaped by our environment, how we were raised, the culture we grew up in. And the United States is very much if you want to call it American culture. And no matter what color you look, you come up in this country long enough, you're outside of your family long enough. I don't care if you're an immigrant or whatever, you adopt and inherit naturally because you get so much input from TV, social media,
yeah.
interactions with people from this country. And it's easy to think a different way when you engage and interact with people outside of the country. So I will say that that was the other thing I didn't say, but it's very important. It changed how I see things and how I think about stuff from a more global perspective.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I totally agree. I can understand and I totally agree because yeah, you after living in Europe and all other parts of the world, you just become so much more cultured and so much more open and so much more um
Patient, understanding.
yeah, 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 fact.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I can go on and on and on, especially after my experience in the Middle East. Like it's so different living outside of the US. And I will say I'm just totally grateful for that experience and you sharing that as well, because that's important and not a lot of people think about that. So yeah,
Mhm.
interesting. I'm gonna move on to question number two. What has been the most challenging part of transitioning to civilian life and what helped you the most?
So I transitioned a while ago, right? I got
Mhm.
out in the early 2000s. Um, and I remember, for me, probably this is gonna sound so crazy, but honestly, the hardest part for me was like adjusting my mouth. Because,
Mm,
in the military, especially like in your shop, like with your teams, like in the military, you just be saying Well, back then anyway, we used to say all kind of crazy stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it was like it just what right or wrong, it was what it was, you know? And going into the civilian world, I felt like people were a lot more sensitive. Um,
Mm,
and so you couldn't really, you know, jive and,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, what is it, the dozens or whatever, going back and forth at each other, saying, saying sideways stuff. In the Navy, just like I think a lot of different environments and other branches too, you have your own language. So like falling out of speaking, saying certain things and then people not knowing what you're saying and
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
so for me I say that was the hardest part. And only you would think like adjusting to the pace of the civilian side of the house or private sector,
Yeah.
or just working in a different, like having a different, when you're in the military, you know where you're going to go next, you know what you're going to do. They train you. You go in, there's an expectation, there's going to be training for a certain period of time that you're learning and transitioning. In private sector, they just throw you behind in there and be like, go.
Right. Right. We expect you
And
to know.
so,
You coming in here getting paid. We expect you to know the job and just get it done.
yeah, pretty much. But honestly, I think my naturally I'm pretty quick, and so that part doesn't never, it didn't bother me even then. It was just like if
Yeah.
I would observe and if I didn't know something, like I would go ask the person that I saw doing it the best. So it's just like I don't know, that part of it didn't bother me. It was more so catching myself from being too personable and free with people who hadn't learned me yet,
Oh, that's
and
good.
and watching my mouth.
Yeah, that's good. That's actually a really good point because people don't realize, people that, especially people that have not served in the military, don't realize the culture, like you said, the lingo, the language, the acronyms, and just all the things you get used to saying in your day-to-day life when you are serving. But when you come out and you work in the civilian world, you sometimes are still in that space, probably mentally. And yeah, people are like, you say, oh, I need to, go to the latrine, and people are like, what?
Mhm.
Like, oh, the bathroom, sorry. Or, I just heard some information at the scuttlebutt. Like, and I can't even believe I remember that stuff, but that's lingo for real that people use in the military, in the Navy, that when you are outside of that world, it is very different sometimes. And not everybody understands it. They have never experienced it. They don't know what you're talking about. So I can totally relate to adjusting to that. Even now, I say stuff and I'm like, well, which is so funny. I was saying something to somebody the other day and I was like, what's up, Shippy? And I'm like, oh my God. Like, shippy is like shipmate, you know what I'm saying? And this person
Yeah,
never even served, don't even know
yeah,
what I'm talking about. But I was just like, man, that's so funny. But I totally get that. I totally get
yeah. Oh, believe me,
it.
somebody did something. What were we? I can't even remember, but similar situation, and I was like, "Oh, you trying to be somebody's sea daddy?" Like that, and it was like same thing. It was like, what? I
Right.
was like,
Yeah, they can't relate.
okay.
Can't relate. Look.
Hmm.
No, okay. So let me ask you question number three. How has your identity changed since leaving the military, whether personally or professionally? And I know you already said it's been a minute, but if you can think back and just tell us about like who you were then, who you are now, and just about who you are now and the identity difference or shift or whatever.
Okay, me has been two people since back then, definitely.
Wow.
This Tasha is not the Tasha. So if anybody's watching this, that new Latarsha Crawford actually in the Navy, um, Tasha Jones is two different people removed from
Yeah.
that person. And I say that because at the time I wasn't married. I was with my husband at the time, but we were not married.
Hmm.
I also, like I said, I grew up in the South, very Christian based family, holiness, Pentecostal, saints of God in Christ, like all the things in one church. Very strict parenting. And my mindset was, I would say at the time I was a people pleaser. That's how I was socialized. to support, to sacrifice, to give your last, to be as welcoming as possible, that kind of thing. And those were, I think, good characteristics.
Mm,
But I learned how to share those characteristics with people who deserve them. Because you can get run up and through. I didn't realize then, I was way younger, this is
yeah,
20 plus years later, that people would like, if you're being genuine and authentic and you're being upfront, that they would be upfront with you. Or if you show that you do what you say, they'll do what they say. And yeah, that's not ironic. I would say even most people aren't like that. And I would say a
yeah,
subset of them intentionally aren't like that. And some people just by the nature of who they are as people aren't like that. Not because they're intentionally trying to harm. It's just not everybody is I used to think everybody was as detailed and thoughtful about how they thought about things because that's how I always think.
yeah,
And I used to think everybody was like that. Um, it took me probably longer than it should have to realize they're not. I
mm,
used to take it personal that, folks did certain things or didn't do what they said or, it was a personal offense. And it's like, oh, not everyone is is intentional all the time. Like
yeah,
I didn't realize that was not a thing. So who I am, how I've shifted from when I was in the military to now is that I've matured a lot. I've obviously enhanced. I feel like I've enhanced and then my skill set would revert. It depended on the roles that I was in. I'll
yeah,
honestly say being in management or being in an executive role, especially in the executive roles, you lose the hands-on, like
yeah, yeah,
technical knowledge and expertise. And I've been in executive roles for an extended period of time. So, but my skill sets have shifted as a result of that. So it kind of ebbed and flowed as far as like my technical capacity, business acumen, financial capability, and so on. Like it's just but I have what hasn't changed is that I'm always seeking like to learn. I always feel like people are like, don't you want to be a mentor? And I'm like, I don't feel like I can mentor anybody. I need to be mentored myself. Like I always feel like I need to learn something or enhance or shift or change. Like right now, well, for the last 7 years, actually, I've been intentional in doing things with automation and AI, especially AI, and leveraging it equitably and in appropriate manners for small businesses, specific to the government contracting space, because that's kind of the sector that I grew up in since I got out of the military. Even though I had jobs that were like contractor side, private sector side, they've all been within the GovCon market space, mostly in the defense and in intelligence side of the house. But I would say the last maybe 6 years, 7 years, I've been doing things more on the federal civilian and even in the state local education side. Um, but it's been mostly in the U.S. federal government market space is where I've worked the majority of my career. So definitely a lot of transition and a lot of shifts since I was in the military. But the military always kind of served as a foundation. Of course, in addition to my militarized upbringing.
right.
For just being very controlled and specific, but then going into the military and having that, there's my bed is always done. I fold my
Yeah,
clothes a certain way. Like there's certain things that's just
yeah.
it's foundational. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. No, I can totally get that. I get that. Like, and people, I feel like that are military, and specifically the Navy, because we're both Navy people. Like when you see other Navy people and you work with other Navy people, it's kind of like they just get it. Y'all just click. Like the way they work, the mindset, just everything about them. It just works. Sometimes when you work with people that they have not served, it's just kind of like they don't get it. Your work ethic, it just surpasses, and they just like. They get lost in the sauce. And it's like, man, it's so much better, in my opinion, sometimes to work with people who have been in the military because, like you said, it is kind of like a culture, a whole like way of living or lifestyle for people. And you just kind of adopt certain things that you learned in the military. And it just makes you, I don't know, a little bit more disciplined sometimes, a little bit more,
Mhm.
like you said, structure and all of that. So no, that's a good look. I totally understand that. And it helps you to like I don't know, grow and expand, like you said, because that's the foundation, that's the root, and you work from that. So
Yeah,
very good.
I definitely agree with that. And something you just said triggered something for me in that people like working with military, you know how there was this whole what did they call it? Not quit in place. It's like this new phenomenon supposedly where people stay in their jobs, but they're not really they doing like the minimum because I forgot what the term's
I don't know
called.
what it's called.
I forgot what the term called.
Management being not holding the person accountable. That's what it is.
Well, that, but no, it's a whole, I think people, because of like what's been happening with the COVID stuff and then all of this stuff with now with the political stuff and
Oh,
companies just being some kind of way, a lot of people are like quitting in position or quitting in
I
place.
see
I
what
forget
you're
what the
saying.
term is called.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But I feel like even like when you're military, you're well, and not everybody, right? There's some, don't get me wrong, there's some scrubs that was in the military. Like
That's true.
you got scrubs everywhere.
Very
It's
true.
just I'm showing my age because I don't know what the right term's supposed to be, but
They still use that. I got to ask Jake, but I'm sure they still use that.
but it's just like it's like but for the people like I would say like me and you Sparkle, like even if you're really upset or feel you've been mistreated or you're being taken advantage of, even if you're going to be one looking for something else, a different environment that's going to treat you better,
Mhm.
but you're also going to have a level of commitment, like your own self, what is it? I'm missing the words. Like you won't allow yourself to not perform lower than a certain standard.
Right.
um, Even if the environment is not what it's supposed to be, you're not going to be able to have receipts on me not meeting deadlines, not doing what I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do. Like there's a certain amount, like you said, that work ethic thing is what triggered this for me.
Yeah.
It's like, but there's times like when that's another struggle area is working with people that because they're jaded have acquiesce their integrity to just at least do your standard should be better than what the minimum requirement like is my
Yeah.
opinion. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
I agree. I
Now
totally
you may not get my extra where I'm going to take stuff home like I used to, or I'm going to work beyond certain amount of hours. I may give you exactly the hours, but I naturally work more. I'm just an effective worker, and so
exactly.
I tend to get a lot done in less time anyway. But I may do whatever the tasks are and then do some background work to make sure that I've covered myself and stop there versus doing the extra
Yeah.
if I'm irritated with the environment or I feel like the person that is my management or that's over me is not respecting the fact that I am a hard worker. Because that's
Yeah.
another thing. Like,
Girl, look, I know all about that, honey. That's
listen,
a situation I know about, and trust me, it don't make you feel good, but I know exactly what you're saying. When you have whack leadership or supervision, that just kind of changes the way you operate. And it shouldn't, but sometimes it does. And I totally understand your point in that. Your work ethic and all of that is you work at a certain level. And sometimes those supervisors will make you kind of throttle back and be like, I ain't giving you my I don't know, best of the best because you don't deserve it. And that's unfortunate because sometimes even when I think that, it's still hard for me to operate in that manner because it's just
yes,
your nature, it's just the way you work. But those people
yes.
can make you feel like you're not deserving of my 100 that I normally would give to anything that I do because you're
Mhm.
super whack, you're a bad leader, you just don't know the job. Like those kind of things, it happens. But look, girl, I don't even know what to say, honey. It happens. It happens. So I totally understand that point.
Yeah. And I think some people don't understand how, like you said, you like, oh, to my girlfriend Tasha be bossing, da 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 da, all the things. And I get people that say it, they're like, oh, you shouldn't have to be subordinate, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but I don't mind. I think
Yeah.
I don't mind. And honestly, I like being in the background. I like being the support team and making sure all the wheels stay, moving and on the bus. And it's okay for me to do that. I don't like to be out in the front. Can I do it? Yes. Can
Yeah.
I take it? Can I, if I need to lead, I will. But the other thing too is I don't expect people that are help supporting me to do no more than what I would do myself, right? So I'm not going to ask you to do no more than I would do myself. If you're a leader though, and you're always putting unrealistic, expectations and tasks on other people, and then you're not even creating a safe space for them to operate and function, to make mistakes and fix those mistakes when they make them, and be comfortable coming to you, good, bad, or indifferent, but then expect them to just do everything you say, how you say, and go above and beyond, that's just unrealistic. I think
Yeah.
that's not good leadership. And you get someone like myself, like a Sparkle. I actually, if I'm under someone, my goal is to do what I do, but also make sure they look good because
Yeah.
if they rise, I'm rising. And I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of people who don't get that that is how you get people to follow you, to support you, and to do like the best is by being a great leader and proving what you say, doing what you say, creating a safe space for people to function and operate. Life is hard. And the
Yeah.
last thing, we spend so much time working, and especially in the United States, you don't need to go into an environment where you spend most of your time and just be stressed the hell out because somebody's attitude or you feeling yourself because you have a supervisory manager executive title,
Yeah.
and you're not your role when you're in those positions is to care for the people so that they make the business successful
Yeah.
or that they make the organization successful. That's your job. That's your number one job, because you can suck at what you do, don't know how to read financial reports, like just be just all kind of bad. But if you have a team of superstars, they will make you look excellent.
Exactly. 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 No, that's facts. Like this, we need to do like a part two about this because I'm sure a lot of people want to know what life is like working in the military for real. And like you're talking, working with good, bad, I don't know, from all different spectrums of leaders and how that too kind of shapes who you are and who you become when you do transition. Because I feel like a lot of times that plays a big part in who you become and how you operate. Because some people may say, you know what, I had a super sucky leader when I was in the military, and that showed me how I want to not be and how I can be better than that person, blah, blah, blah. So, like, that is a legit conversation that we could dive
Oh,
into. Like,
yes, it can. I got
like
stories.
seriously.
I got stories like my master chief in A school who told me that I can't, because I had a really Southern accent. Like I'm this speech here
Yeah.
that we have on the show today has been tweaked a little bit. Well, it's been tweaked a lot. But he told me in school that I can't talk the way I was talking and be taken seriously. And if you heard his accent, girl, he was from Texas. He was a older white guy, and he's like, "Girl, you can't be up in here talking like that." And I was like, you would think, and I'm country too, so the way that I'm talking, it wasn't awful. It just had my accent.
Yeah.
And he was like, he told me, he was like, man, that was one of the best ever briefings I ever seen. He's like, you know your stuff, you are excellent. He's like, but you can't go into the briefings in front of, you know, congressional leaders and senior military officials. I mean, I work with Joint Chiefs of Staff. I've done support for presidential daily briefs at major intelligence agencies, and you do your targeting reports. Like, there's so many things where you're
Yes.
sitting in front of a broad spectrum of people, everybody from line workers to leadership, and unfortunately the accent, there's a lot of people who think they hear country or southern and they think slow, or they think that
Mhm.
they're not as competent. And you add being chocolate black lady to it, You put all of the colorism, the texture, like you put everything together, being
Yeah,
a woman, period. Like all
yeah.
those things, all the people you're talking to, there's all these different biases, whether they're known or unknown, that play into that. And so, and some people are like, well, just be who you are. Yes, I would say
Yeah.
that's a whole nother conversation, but I took to heart what that Master Chief told me. I didn't get offended that he told me I was the way that I talked took away from my briefing. I took that to heart, and honestly, it served me well.
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, hey, I mean, ain't nothing wrong with that. You took it and did what it did, make it do what it do, and it's
Hmm.
all good. So,
You can still be
um,
authentic with that too, though,
very
Sparkle.
true, very true,
Yeah,
very true, very
because
true.
I can elaborate and enunciate my words, but then fall back and be like, and bring the country stuff every so often and give a little chuckle. So
Yeah, I
I'm
think about
still being.
sometimes though it's kind of like I don't know, man. I be thinking in my head like, first of all, who are you to tell me that I need to adjust? You know, that's the first thought that come to my head. I get it, and I can appreciate how it served you because you articulate a little bit differently and better, and however whatever you chose to take that advice and do with it. But it's just kind of like I be thinking the nerve of people. That'd be the first thing in my head.
Don't get me wrong. At the time, my little 18-year-old self wanted to curse him out. But I wasn't raised that way. So I internalized
Yeah,
it all. And then later, because and you know this about me, Sparkle. I think about things and I try to put myself in multiple perspectives and shoes
yeah,
whenever I'm thinking. I'm always like, oh, I should have said this or I could have did that. And so when I went back and thought about it later, I took the pieces of things that he said and
mm,
applied that to how I move forward. I
yeah,
didn't let myself go as a result of what he said. But I did adjust and created what needed to be created so I could play in this game. Because I don't care who you are, unless you pick a lane that rewards you being a certain, like being
mm,
colorful, using the slang and vernacular, having the wild looking, even being stylish back then, having certain type of hair kept you from the table. You
yeah,
get what I'm
yeah,
saying? So, I mean, unless you're in that space, this was the space that I was in. This is the space where I matriculated my skills and my experience. And so, I don't see, again, some people like, oh, you sold out or whatever. I'm like, that's your opinion and you're allowed to have it. And
right.
so, like, but where I am and what I have, I'm happy with it. And that's what matters, to me. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it
and
is.
I can absolutely respect that. Honest to God, I really can. And I need to do better at that myself, honestly. Like you said, taking and analyzing kind of like you said, putting yourself kind of in those shoes and trying to understand from their point of view or their perspective and what they see in you and what they're hearing and things like that. Honest to God, I need to be, and that's that analytical mind. That's what I tell you all the time. I really would like to be more like that because it is beneficial to think that way because you're not always one taking something personal when you think like that, right? You're always able to kind of see the bigger picture. So, like I said, I can respect it and I can totally appreciate that. This is my sparkle, my first thought. I'm like, what? Now, who you think you are trying to tell somebody with that country accent you got? Like in my head, I'm going off, right? But I totally get it and I respect it because those are some
Yep.
of the things that happen to young sailors when they do enter the military and we call them salty leaders like that have been in for a long time. They see and they know things from their time in service, and what they do is they try to instill what they learned and what they know and what they've seen in order to help the next generation come up. And I can understand that and receive that and respect that because that's exactly like I've had some of those same experiences. Bad attitudes get you nowhere in the military. I had a badass attitude, and that's exactly what a leader told me. Same thing. You ain't never gonna get nowhere and be where you're trying to be if you don't adjust the attitude. So I get it. But thinking with that mind, how to play the game to get to where you want to be. And when somebody sees that and recognizes that, and them coming to you and telling you that, like I said, I can
Mhm.
totally respect that. So yeah, it is what it is. So let me ask you the question number 4. What role does style, self-care, or self-expression play in your life today?
So that is something that I am playing with a little more than I ever have. in my previous life. And of course, Sparkle, you are definitely an influence on that.
Thank you, honey.
Y'all, she told me that I look like a government person one time. That is not a compliment. If you guys know what government people just like, I was like, oh my God. Like, no, if you had government worker, it's like the fuddy-duddy suit that like it's not fitted right, and it's like
Yeah.
the black, blue, brown, it's like certain colors that you wear. Um so I'm definitely you can see I like even wearing like green, and you see the haircut, and I'm trying out things that I normally would not have even considered.
Yeah.
Uh Different colors, different types of clothes, um, and just allowing myself, because in growing up in the military, of course, you got you have the uniforms and
Hmm.
everything. And like I was only in for one tour, but that it stuck with me, the conservative kind of, because you
Yeah.
had to get back then, right? You had to get approval. What is it, a chit? You had to
Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
approval.
Like hair chit, all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I don't think they do chits today. I don't think
Well,
so.
for the guys, well, actually, you know what? They might for the no shave. That might be the only thing. But the hair standards have changed. They have relaxed a whole lot. I see women with ponytails, earrings, all that stuff. So yeah, it's been relaxing.
Yeah, yeah, but like back in the day, like you weren't allowed to have, even braids was
Yeah,
you know what I'm
right.
saying? Even if you had them like micros or really small or whatever, it was still a problem.
Yeah,
Um, and so I was very conservative minded. And then of course I grew up in working in the federal government space. It was already hard enough being in intelligence or being in that kind of work. And then my degree is in computer engineering. So I kind of bounced back and forth once I got out of the military between like intelligence roles and then technical roles. And being a Black woman, and that definitely played a big part in it. And so I was always sharp, but sharp for government
yeah,
environment standards, which was very conservative to a certain extent.
yeah,
And I was more aware, like I wouldn't even wear a top that was too that showed any kind of start to the break into my
yeah,
bosom. I would make sure it was at least an inch above, so that there was no, like, I was just very
yeah,
aware of how I present. My nail polish color was never bright. It was mostly nudes. My
yeah.
lipsticks were never crazy, nude colors,
Wow.
not too
Yeah,
much
yeah,
crazy. I never wore hair color because there was an association with it being ghetto, even
yeah.
when it was done well. So like it's just like, so now, like, I don't have color now, but I've been you playing with different colors in my hair. My closet was definitely black, brown, blue, gray. And I've been changing up, like putting some color. And you can see what even my company logo is multiple colors and colors that I like. And just even shoes and wearing business clothes, but
Yeah.
styling it up to make it a little bit less traditional for the GovCon space,
Yeah.
instead of just look like a FBI agent. And no shade to the FBI agents,
Right.
for the good ones out there, you know who you are. I love
Right,
you.
right, right. But they do
Um,
have a standard look. I know what you
they
mean.
have a standard look, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't want to be walking around looking like that.
Yeah.
I want to have a little funk. Wear some nice sneakers with some slacks and a blazer, and
Yeah.
still look professional, but have some style to it. And so yeah, that, and it makes me feel good. I feel even more like I've always been fairly authentic, but I feel even more authentic when I can show up and I got, some nice hoops, a little thin necklace, and
Yeah.
my bracelet. And girl, I be wanting to do a watch like you do, but I got this Fitbit thing. I'm kind of cracking and tracking my stuff. But I feel a lot better when I'm styled and I've picked the things I like, and I feel snazzy in addition to still
Yeah.
coming showing up professional. So,
Yeah, no, I can get that. I totally get that. And look, my Apple Watch crashed out, so now I'm wearing the Aura ring. So I did a whole little review about all that, girl. But anyway, we could talk more. If you want to do your tracker, have a fitness tracker that's a little bit less discreet and a little bit more fashionable. That's the whole, whatever. So anyway, plug that to the little Aura ring. It's been working pretty good. But
okay.
no, I totally understand that actually. Because I talk about like this, I said before, this whole channel has been created to kind of give women veteran a voice, but also to talk style and then talk streamlining our lives, man, to make our lives a little bit easier and using technology and apps and whatever we need to be efficient in how we do because we are multi-hyphenate women, boss babes, government employees, contractors, working moms, however, whatever. So sometimes you don't show up authentically because you are lost in some of those roles. And I can
Hmm.
appreciate how you are tapping into, not even tapping into, but being authentic by dibbling and dabbling into colors that you love and actually showing up and expressing yourself the way you want to express yourself because the goal is to help women and build a community that allows women or enables women I should say to show up confidently in but their best in their most authentic selves, right? But
Hmm.
be confident. That is the goal. Be confident in who you are and what you are wearing. And so
Hmm.
that is very, very important. Like you said, the hair is all funky. You got colors, nail polish popping, a little lippy. All that matters, and the fact that it makes you feel as good as you say it does, that is very, very, I don't know, inspiring. So I can
Hmm.
appreciate that.
It took a minute.
Yeah.
It took a minute for me to be confident with it. I remember when I saw this style. Because let me tell y'all, I have a Pinterest and Instagram. I have like fantasy boards, things I said. It's like I got all kind of like haircut pictures and
Yeah.
like nail styles and all the things. Now I still haven't gotten into like blinging out my nails, and I probably never will, just
Yeah.
because I'm a Virgo,
Hmm.
and you add that with all this other childhood trauma that has positioned me to be the person that I am.
Right.
um, I like if it's something anything off and you get the little bling stuff, it get caught on something, it'll bug
Yeah.
me to death. So I
Yeah.
try to be simple, with my nails, but I'll probably throw a different color, brighter color than I normally would, just to try it out, and do something different. But I used to always be like, man, oh, I'm finna go to this event and it's a government thing, and I
Mhm.
kind of feel like I'm doing too much, and like it used to
Yeah.
really bog me down mentally. And then I don't know if it's age or what, but I got to a point where I'm like, man, if they uncomfortable, that's their problem.
Exactly. No, facts. Facts. Like I kind of always been that way. Like it just is what it is, even in the military. Now, people don't know that in the military there are military standards in as far as your dress, your hair, your nails, and all of that. So we didn't really talk much about that, but Tasha's saying about how she's very conservative with the color and the hair and all that. In the military, you can't wear your hair below the collar. Like it has to be cut like right at the collar length if you're gonna wear it down. This was back in our time. Let me start there. Back in our time, right? Now the standards are different. Women are wearing ponytails, but you couldn't wear your nails a certain length. Like my nails are kind of long. They couldn't go past the fingertips. You couldn't wear certain colors, only colors that complemented your skin tone and things like that. So you had to, we talk about identity being lost. Like legitly, it would be lost because you are wearing a uniform and sticking to a standard according to the Navy. So everybody's kind of looking the same, right? And when you transition out of the military to be able to find your identity again and to I don't know, just show up as who you want to show up as and wear what you want to wear. It can be sometimes people don't transition well into that. Like it takes a little time to find your signature style and to really find like who you are and who you want to show up as in your new role and new life and your new position or whatever. So yeah, all good stuff. Let me ask you one last question though. If you could give your younger military self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I don't know. The first thing that popped in my head, but I'm like, would I really want that to be the one? The first thing that popped in my head was don't get out.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
don't get out. And I say that because so we when when me and my husband now, were together back then, like I said, at that I was socialized to accommodate, to be the one to sacrifice, to appease and to accommodate and all the things, right? Pleasing. Um, like I didn't give it a second thought when um the decision was that okay, well, he wants to have kids. You know, I felt as we're getting married as a spouse, that's I'm as the woman in the relationship, my thoughts is that if I say yes to this man, I know he wants kids. Like that's part of my responsibility and duty
Yeah.
to provide that. Um, and you know, I know there's some women like, girl, if you don't want to da 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 da, you know what? To each his own.
Right.
To each his own. That's what I feel. If you know somebody wants that and they want you want a couple, you want to be together, how you gonna get into marriage and then be like, I don't want no kids? I
Yeah.
wasn't, and I'll say, and my kids know this, so I mean, they're old. I have my kids are young adults at this point. Um, I at the time, like I because of what I saw growing up, I wasn't really crazy about having kids. That wasn't something that I was aspiring to at the time. But I cared enough about our relationship and my husband, boyfriend at the time that I was like, I'm willing to, you know, go down that road with him. And I just jumped into like is immediately accepted all the things.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, like when I went into the military, I was on a mission. Like my before I even accepted the my rate for I because I had a lot of options for rates to go into.
Yeah.
And before I accepted my rate, girl, when I tell you I did a deep dive research project on the military and I assessed, and this is back before AI, so I didn't just type it in the chat. Like I put in
Yeah.
hundreds of hours of research about the different branches, how long it takes to get like how long it is to move up, and I talked to people and
Yeah.
all the things, and that's how I ended up going to the Navy instead of some of the other branches because of the slow, some of them rank slow, you know,
Yeah.
and rank is money. So I was like, I'm not trying to be, and again, no hearts. I love my Air Force people, but they rate like forever before they get promoted.
Yeah.
Like E8s had been in 20 years. I'm like, what the hell? Or
Yeah.
not even E8s, E4s, E5s had been
Yeah.
in the Air Force for like 15, 20 years before they was able to get to that rate. And I'm like, if you look at the money, I'm like, nah, you know. And so I was doing research to try to figure out like what to do. And yeah, I had got in the military. I went enlisted, even though I was thinking to go on to an officer program, but I was like, nah, away from home. I was trying to get away from, you know,
I
being
see.
under control and all the things.
Got you. Got you.
And so I was like, no, I'm gonna go enlisted, but I'm going to go into Boost,
Hmm.
which they don't have that no more, but that was for Officer Selection and Training, I think is what the acronym stands for. And it would take you to OCS. You go to school, go for 4 years, and you come back enlisted, and you have to commit to a certain period of time. And so, when I went into the military, I was top in my boot camp. Like I was originally the RPOC, and then I became the AROC.
Yeah.
And turns right. So I was the lead for my division
Yeah.
in boot camp. And then so I left there. And then when I got stationed at my first duty station and only main duty station was Jack Molesworth. I think they call it Jayakure now. I'm not sure what the name is, but I went there and same thing, like less than a year, I got E4. And then maybe a few months after that, I was accepted into Boost.
Yeah.
Um, and so in less than 2 years, I was top of everything I had done, got a promotion out of A school because I was top of my class there too, and then got accepted into the Boost program and was getting ready to head out for that. And that's when everything happened with my husband. He wanted to have a kid. We jumped right into that, got pregnant, all the things
Yeah.
and got married. And I just let go all the stuff that I had set up and planned and set and went forth to do, which is why I think the first thing that popped in my head to tell my younger
Yeah.
self to not get out because
Yeah.
I just literally threw everything that I had worked so hard to put in place to the side. Um, for honestly at the time was definitely a huge risk because that was a new relationship. He was, older than me,
Yeah.
a lot older than me. I'm from the South, he from the North. Like everything different that could cause any kind of relationship to struggle. And I basically had set myself up to, because my goal was I wanted to be the most highest ranking woman in the Navy for all time. That was my goal. Like
Yeah.
that's what I want.
Wow.
I say, because I want to enact some real change and I want to do it as I move up. And then when I get to the top, go back and do the things that I couldn't do when I was at a lower level. And so that's kind of how I was thinking. And I literally let that go to appease and satisfy in a relationship that,
Yeah.
thank God, I am still in that
Right.
relationship. So it's
Right,
not
right,
like I
right.
gave it all up for nothing. That's why I said I don't know if that's, but because you don't know if I would have stayed in and did all the things if I'd be with like where I am with my kids and all the stuff today. But I do appreciate those things. But
Yeah.
I would tell her don't get out. Like to love and trust yourself enough to actually still pursue what you put in place for yourself and what you desire for yourself. You can
Yeah.
do that and love somebody else at the same time.
Exactly, exactly. And I love that. And there's not a lot of young people, definitely not in my time when I was in the military. And I don't know a lot now that were that intentional in their thinking, in their plan for their military career. And who is now that intentional in planning their life forward. Like not a lot of people think like that, honest to God. So that is, I can understand and I can appreciate why you say you would tell your younger self to not get out because you had planned and set up with so much intention what you were doing and where you were going and who you were going to become. And that is really, really like, I don't know, man. Kind of, it's like I wonder, like, man, you could have really done that. Like, I think you absolutely could. Me knowing you, So I'm like, oh, I hate to say it, but you gave up a lot. But by the grace of God, I know hubby, y'all loving each other. Everything is great. It's been a long time. But it's like, man, that what you could have achieved and done because you were intentional with planning your life, like that is just so amazing to even think about. So I don't know. I don't know. I appreciate you coming to share like your whole story, the transition, you dropping all the gems that you did drop and I don't know. I feel like our conversation is definitely is going to be an inspiration for some people because you have shared a lot more of your personal parts of the transition, and not a lot of people think about that when they are transitioning from the military, from the career they may have currently, all of that. Like, there's a lot that goes into going in or coming out of the military, period. And you got a lot to consider: family, kids, like you said, future goals, roles, all of that. So it is very, very, very important, I think, to have this conversation, spotlight women who have served, and just to let people hear what it takes to be who we are, right? And I think we are amazing. We are gold. We are the bomb.com. Women, we are all that in a bag of chips. And people don't, I don't know, a lot of times people don't really um get it or understand the dynamics of women and what we achieve and accomplish every day, what we do and what we give up and all of that. So I say all that to say thank you so much, and I appreciate you for coming and sharing your story and your transition and kind of what you're doing now. And speaking of what you're doing now, just give us a quick little whatever about what you're doing now and tell us how we can support you, because we would love to do that as viewers, to support you and hold you in a space that helps you continue to just do whatever it is that you're doing and all the greatness and all the things.
So I have a small company called 2039, where we help leaders take strategy to execution, focused on modernizing different environments, whether it's from a business perspective, technical. We do management and technology consulting, help with automation, AI integration, and strategy. And we do a lot of fractional executive support as well. On the government defense side of the house, seat of support is systems engineering technical assistance services is what we've done. With the changes in the administration and how it's impacting small businesses, I've been shifting the business to focus more on private sector. We still have our GovCon work, but making more investment in shifting the company to focus on private sector, and doing exactly the same thing because private sector needs assistance with that strategy to execution, soup to nut support. And so I'm starting a new program in the business that is gonna be basically the flagship for the new direction. It's called the Aspire Collective, and Aspire spelled Espire, Aspire Collective. And we'll have a site up soon for that. I'll make sure to share the link with Sparkle. And basically, I am providing something that I honestly wished I could have had when I first started the business. I never really wanted to do a traditional GovCon company. I wanted to start a consultancy that was specialized around solopreneurs who definitely are in the public sector space, but open to private as well, where we share our knowledge equity and kind of be like our own advisory board to each other. We do a profit share on the pipeline of business and then also bring in speakers and service providers that can help us all grow our businesses independently, as well as a collective through the profit share model that we have with the collective. And so right now, I'm standing up a lot of the back end infrastructure for that, getting ready to start marketing and socializing what I'm doing with regards to that. There's a lot of government people that were let go and are looking to try to do their own thing. And so, we're talking with other companies that need consulting services from highly skilled and, got that integrity that we talked about, looking for
Mhm.
consultants are go-getters and don't take as much time to get up to speed. And so the Aspire Collective is going to be coming out. We'll do a soft launch towards the end of this year, 2025, and our actual full launch is planned for first quarter in 2026. And so we'll definitely love any support whenever we'll be on our social media handles with LinkedIn, Instagram, and we're going to re-up our YouTube channel because we hadn't really been posting on that like the way we should. And then, of course, with some of our partners, one of our companies that we have been engaged with, and I am an alum of their services is Collective. So collective.com, they provide back end services if you are a consultant or a solopreneur. And you do what you do well, but you don't want to have to do the bookkeeping, the invoicing, your tax stuff, and all of that. Their service, they provide all of that. Even if you don't have a business yet, they can set you up. If you're going to be making over a certain amount, set you up with an S corp, help you with that, with the tax benefits from that. And so Collective is definitely one of those service providers that we're going to be riding with and riding with us. And so just bringing in like services like that and help and the knowledge to help people run their businesses and do what they do and be able to scale their revenue unlimited because they have the systems and the infrastructure behind them to support that. And so yeah, so the Aspire Collective is the big push right now. In addition to of course maintaining our contracts that we have in the state local education market, which is if you heard me say SLED, that's what that stands for, and the GovCon space.
Got you. Like I told y'all, if y'all didn't know, my girl is bossing, okay? Like legitly. I totally appreciate you. I will make sure everything is linked below if you guys want to support Tasha, follow the YouTube channel, get services from 2039 from the Aspire Collective. However, whatever, all the things, everything will be linked for Tasha below. Once again, we thank you so much, Tasha, for coming to share all the gems of your story, your transition, just giving us a little bit of history and all of that. We totally appreciate you. And thank you so much. And until next time, bye.